The message arrived at 3 in the morning, Earth time. Ambassador was sleeping in her small room on the diplomatic ship called Horizon's Edge when the alarm started screaming. She jumped out of bed and ran to the communication room. Her heart was beating fast. Emergency messages from the Galactic Council never meant good news. The hologram flickered to life. A being made of floating crystals appeared. It was the voice of the Council, and it spoke without emotion. Humanity has been summoned to the arena of supremacy on 7. You will present your apex predator for judgment. All 12 member species will participate. Failure to appear means removal from the Galactic Council. You have 72 hours. The message ended, stood there in her pajamas, her mind racing. She had heard stories about the arena of supremacy. It was an ancient tradition that started thousands of years before humans even discovered fire. When a new species wanted to prove they belonged among the stars, they had to show their strength, not through weapons or technology, through biology, through evolution. They had to bring the most dangerous creature their planet had ever created. Walked to her desk and started pulling up files. She needed to know what they were facing. They were an old species. They lived in the darkness between stars and feared nothing. Their apex predator was called The files showed a creature that looked like living darkness. It ate light and heat. Where it walked, everything became cold and black. Soldiers who faced it went mad from fear before it even touched them. They were warriors. Their entire culture was built on combat and honor. They were bringing a beast with 6 legs and armor that could stop missiles. It weighed as much as a small building and could run faster than any Earth vehicle. Its claws could cut through steel like paper. The Chiton Collective was a hive mind of insect-like creatures. Billions of them shared one consciousness. Their champion was the Hive Queen's own creation, a perfect killing machine with acid for blood and blades for arms. It could think with the combined intelligence of a billion minds. Felt sick. Earth had lions, Earth had sharks, Earth had bears, but nothing like this. Nothing that could match these nightmares. She called Lieutenant to her office. He was her security chief, a tall man with tired eyes who had served in 3 colonial conflicts. If anyone knew about dangerous creatures, it was him. "We have a problem," said. She showed him the message. Read it twice. His face became pale. "Apex predator, what are we supposed to bring? A really angry dog." "I don't know. Check the official files. Someone in the Earth government must have prepared something." Worked at the computer for 20 minutes. Watched him scroll through file after file. His expression changed from confusion to disbelief to something that looked like horror. "Ambassador," he said slowly, "I found our submission." "Good, what is it?" "A gene-modified super soldier, a captured deep-sea monster." Turned the screen toward her, looked at the file. She looked at it for a long time, then she looked at the file again. "This is a joke," she said. "It's not a joke. It's signed by the Colonial Administration Office, official seal and everything." On the screen was a picture of a small human child, a boy with messy dark hair and chubby cheeks. He was wearing a shirt with a cartoon dinosaur on it. According to the file, his name was. He was 3 years old, and he was officially registered as Earth's apex predator representative. "How did this happen?" asked. Her voice was very quiet. Pulled up more documents. "It looks like someone in the paperwork department made a mistake. There was a request for a prime example of human evolutionary adaptation. The file got passed around. Someone thought it was asking for a child development study. Someone else thought it was a joke, and somehow it ended up as our official submission. Can we change it?" The deadline for submissions was 6 months ago. It's locked in the council's system. If we try to bring something different, we'll be disqualified. Sat down heavily. This was a disaster. The other species were bringing monsters that could destroy cities. Earth was bringing a toddler. "Where is this child now?" she asked. "On the colony ship heading to 7, with his parents. They think they won a vacation contest. Put her head in her hands. We need to meet them. We need to explain. And we need to figure out how to survive this without becoming the laughing stock of the entire galaxy. The next 48 hours were chaos. Traveled to the colony ship and found the family in their small cabin. The father was named. He was a quiet man who worked as an engineer. The mother was. She had dark circles under her eyes and looked like she had not slept properly in years. And then there was. When first saw him, he was sitting on the floor, trying to put a square block into a round hole. He was completely focused on this impossible task. He had been trying for 20 minutes and showed no signs of giving up. He's very determined, said. There was something in her voice. Pride, maybe, or exhaustion, probably both. Knelt down next to the boy. Hello. Looked up at her. His eyes were big and dark. He studied her face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Then, without any warning, he said one word. No. He went back to his blocks. He says that a lot, explained. It's his favorite word. Stood up and faced the parents. She had to tell them the truth. She had to explain that their son was about to be presented to a galactic arena as humanity's most dangerous creature. She had to tell them that the fate of Earth's position in the galaxy might depend on a 3-year-old. She opened her mouth to speak. At that exact moment, finally got the square block into the round hole. He did this by hitting it so hard that the toy broke into pieces. He smiled like he had won a great victory. Watched him. She watched this tiny human who had just destroyed a toy through pure stubbornness. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a very small thought began to form. Maybe, just maybe, the paperwork wasn't entirely wrong. The arena of supremacy was carved from a moon, stood at the window of her ship and watched it grow larger. It was the most impressive thing she had ever seen. The entire surface was covered in towers and lights and landing platforms. Ships from 100 different species were already docked there. Some were small like hers. Others were larger than cities. This is where we die of embarrassment, said, standing next to her. Don't be dramatic. I'm being realistic. In 2 hours, we're going to walk into an arena filled with the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. And we're bringing a toddler who spent the last hour crying because his banana broke. Had no response to this. The banana incident had been difficult, wanted his banana in one piece. When it broke in half, he acted like the universe had personally attacked him. He cried for 45 minutes. Nothing could comfort him, not a new banana, not candy, not his favorite toy. The banana was broken and the world was unfair and everyone needed to know about his pain. His parents had handled it with the calm acceptance of people who had seen worse. At least he tired himself out, had said, carrying her sleeping son to bed. He'll be calm for the presentation. Hope so. She really hoped so. The ship landed on platform 17. A greeting party was waiting for them. There were representatives from each of the 12 member species, and they all looked confused when the human delegation walked out. Where is your creature? Asked representative of the Chiton Collective. Looked like a giant praying mantis with 4 arms and eyes that saw in every direction. Is it being transported separately? No, said, he's right here. She stepped aside to reveal who was carrying a sleepy on his shoulder. The boy was wearing his dinosaur shirt again. He was clutching a stuffed rabbit that had seen better days. The silence was very loud. That, said of the, is a larva. We call them children, said. You brought a child to the arena of supremacy. He is our official representative. More silence. Then, slowly, a sound started. It took a moment to realize it was laughter. The representative was making a noise like breaking glass. There were rumbling like earthquakes. Even the crystalline beings were vibrating with amusement. The humans have surrendered, announced. They mock the sacred tradition. They insult us with this offering. We have done no such thing, said. Her voice was firm. Earth is following the rules. We were asked to bring our apex predator. We brought him." This soft thing, this tiny, helpless creature, stepped closer. He was 3 meters tall and covered in natural armor. His breath smelled like metal. I could crush it with one finger. Chose this moment to wake up. He looked at him. The massive alien warrior waited for the child to scream or cry or show any sign of fear. Reached out and grabbed one of his facial horns. "Cow," he said. Blinked to watch. "Big cow." "I am not a cow. I am destroyer of worlds, champion of the bearer of the bone crown." Was not impressed. "Cow needs bath, smells bad." Quickly pulled his son away. "Sorry about that. He's learning animal names. Everything with horns is a cow right now." Stood very still. No one had ever insulted him like this. No one had ever dared. He had killed enemies for much smaller offenses. But this tiny creature had no fear. It looked at him like he was nothing special, like he was just another thing in the universe that existed for the child's amusement. It was deeply unsettling. The delegation was led to their holding area. It was a small room with a window that looked out over the arena floor. Could see the other species preparing their creatures. There was being kept in a container of pure darkness. There was packing in a cage made of energy fields. The Hive Queen's champion stood perfectly still, waiting for commands. And in humanity's holding area, was playing with blocks again. Sat next to, "Ambassador, I need to tell you something." "What is it?" Missed his nap on the ship. The engines kept making strange noises and he couldn't sleep. He's very tired. Felt a chill run down her spine. What happens when he's tired? His expression was difficult to read. He gets emotional. How emotional? Before could answer, a horn sounded. The arena master's voice echoed through every speaker in the complex. It was time for the demonstrations to begin. The went first. The lights in the arena dimmed as the creature was released. It flowed across the ground like liquid darkness. Test animals were released into its path. They didn't even have time to run before they consumed them. The cold spread outward. Frost formed on the walls. Spectators in the lower seats began to shiver. The judges gave it a score of 9.7 out of 10 on the Terror Index. The went second. A reinforced bunker had been built in the center of the arena. They destroyed it in 23 seconds. Its claws tore through metal like cloth. Its roar shook the entire structure. Score, 9.5. The Hive Queen's champion went third. It faced 3 combat drones programmed to kill. It dissolved them with acid and consumed their parts to make itself stronger. Score, 9.8. One by one, the apex predators demonstrated their power. Mountains of muscle, clouds of poison, living weapons that could destroy armies. And then it was humanity's turn. The arena door opened. Looked at the bright lights. He looked at the massive stadium filled with thousands of strange faces. He looked at the ground where other creatures had fought and killed. His stuffed rabbit was back on the ship. He had asked for it 3 times. No one brought it. His juice box was empty again. His socks felt wrong. And he was very, very tired. Grip's arm, "Ambassador." "Yes. I'm sorry." The tantrum began. Stood in the middle of the arena. The lights were very bright. They hurt his eyes. He was so tired. His legs felt heavy. His head felt fuzzy, and everyone was looking at him. Thousands and thousands of strange creatures with too many eyes and too many arms and too many teeth. They were all staring at him like he was supposed to do something. He didn't want to do anything. He wanted his rabbit. He wanted his juice. He wanted to go home and sleep in his own bed with his own blanket that smelled right. But he was here instead, in this big scary place, without his rabbit. The unfairness of it all hit him like a wave. His lower lip began to tremble. In the viewing area, watched with growing dread. What's happening? Why does he look like that? That's the warning sign, said. His voice was very calm, too calm. When the lip trembles, you have about 5 seconds. 5 seconds until what? Didn't answer, he just covered his ears. Took a breath. It was a small breath at first, but then it grew. His tiny chest expanded. His lungs filled with air, more air than should fit in such a small body. The laws of physics looked at what was happening and decided to take a break. Then he screamed. It was not a normal scream. Normal screams had beginnings and endings. Normal screams came from the throat and faded into silence. This scream came from somewhere deeper. It came from the very core of his being. It came from 3 years of frustration, of wanting things he couldn't have, of being small in a big world that didn't make sense. The sound wave hit the first. The creature of living darkness had never known fear. It was fear. It fed on fear. It had consumed the terror of 1,000 worlds. But this sound was different. This was pure, raw, unfiltered emotion. It was the cry of a small creature who was absolutely certain that the universe had wronged him and was not going to stop until someone fixed it. It tried to run. It flowed toward the walls, toward any darkness where it could hide, but scream followed it. The sound was everywhere. There was no escape. For the first time in its existence, the whimpered. In the stands, the spectators were in chaos. The psychic-sensitive species were the first to fall. The beings of pure thought collapsed as emotional broadcast overwhelmed their minds. They had touched the consciousness of dying stars without flinching. But this was different. This was a toddler who had been promised a trip to the playground and then told it was raining. There was no defense against such betrayal. Through his empty juice box. He didn't aim. He didn't need to. The juice box flew through the air with impossible accuracy. It struck directly in its third eye, the one sensory organ not protected by armor. The creature, which had survived orbital bombardment, stumbled backward. It made a sound no had ever heard from their champion before. It was a sound of confusion, of surprise, of something very close to pain. But was not finished. He threw himself to the ground. He kicked his legs. He pounded his fists against the arena floor. Each impact sent small cracks spreading through the stone that had been specially designed to withstand the attacks of apex predators, the stone that had held firm for 10,000 years. It cracked under the fury of a tired toddler. The Hive Queen's champion stood frozen. It was connected to 1 billion minds across the Chiton Collective. Every drone, every worker, every soldier in their empire shared thoughts and feelings. When the champion experienced something, they all experienced it. So when this emotional wave hit the champion, it hit all of them. Across 17 star systems, the Chiton Collective stopped working. Drones fell from the sky. Workers dropped their tools. Soldiers forgot their training. They all felt it. The desperate, burning unfairness of wanting something so badly and not getting it. The exhaustion of being tired but not being allowed to sleep. The betrayal of a world that took your rabbit and left you in a strange place with bright lights and wrong-smelling air. The Hive Queen herself, ancient and wise and connected to her people, felt tears running down her face. She did not even have tear ducts. Her species had evolved beyond the need for crying millions of years ago, but she was crying now. Screamed about his juice box. The juice box had been his friend. The juice box had been full of apple juice, his favorite kind, and now it was empty, empty, and no one cared, no one understood. He had asked for more juice 3 times and nobody listened. The judges tried to record a score for the terror index. Their equipment exploded. In the viewing area, Ambassador watched with her mouth open. She had prepared for many things. She had prepared for embarrassment. She had prepared for failure. She had prepared to watch humanity become a joke. She had not prepared for this. Stood next to her, his face was pale. Ambassador. Yes. The is trying to surrender. It's sending distress signals. It's asking for mercy. From what? From everything. It just wants the noise to stop. On the arena floor was now screaming about his socks. The socks were fine. The socks were the same socks he always wore, but they felt wrong today. Everything felt wrong today, and he was going to let everyone in this stupid galaxy know about it. The representative turned to, "What is happening? What is that creature doing?" Destroyer of Worlds was trembling, not from fear, from something worse. "I think," he said slowly, "I think it's expressing disappointment. Can we make it stop?" "I don't know. I don't think anything can make it stop. I think it just has to finish." Was now in full boneless mode. Had tried to pick him up, but the boy had made his body completely limp. He had become a noodle of pure resistance. Physics said this should not be possible. A human body should have some structure, some form, but had abandoned structure and form. He was protest made flesh. Approached carefully. She had done this 1,000 times before. She knew the rhythm, she knew the stages. Anger, despair, anger again, bargaining, more anger, and finally exhaustion. They were not at exhaustion yet. He remembered the cookie, said. Turned to her, "What cookie?" "Yesterday he wanted a second cookie. I said no. He's still angry about it." As if to prove her point, screams shifted. The translation devices in the arena picked up his words and broadcast them to everyone. "Cookie want cookie. Mama said no, not fair, not fair, not fair, not fair." The concept of not fair hit the assembled species with physical force. Many of them had built their civilizations on strict hierarchies, on rules that everyone followed, on fairness as a fundamental principle. And now they all felt it. The deep, terrible knowledge that sometimes life was not fair, that sometimes you wanted a cookie and you didn't get a cookie, that sometimes the universe simply said no. It was devastating. The arena of supremacy, which had stood for 10,000 years, which had seen the most terrifying creatures in the galaxy, which had never once failed to complete a demonstration, called for an emergency recess. The judges needed time to recover. The spectators needed medical attention. And somewhere in the chaos, a 3-year-old boy finally started to calm down, his energy spent, his message delivered. The galaxy had seen Earth's apex predator. They would never forget it. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began 3 hours after the incident. 3 hours was not enough time. Some species needed days to recover. They were still unconscious. The Chiton Collective had shut down all non-essential functions across their empire. They had refused to leave its containment unit and was making sounds that its handlers had never heard before. But the council demanded answers. The 12 representatives gathered in the Great Chamber, a room of floating platforms and holographic displays. In the center stood Ambassador. Behind her sat, and between them, wrapped in a blanket and drinking warm milk, he was calm now, peaceful. He looked like a small angel with apple juice stains on his shirt. Representative spoke first. That was having trouble standing, its legs kept shaking. "What was that? What did you bring to the sacred arena? What weapon was that?" "Not a weapon," said, "a child." "Children do not do that. Children are small and weak and harmless. That creature destroyed the psychic network of 3 species. It made the cry. That does not have tear ducts. Human children are different." Slammed his armored fist on his platform. The whole chamber shook. "Explain, now, what evolutionary nightmare created that thing?" Took a deep breath. This was the moment. This was humanity's chance to show the galaxy what they really were. She activated her holographic display. "For millions of years," she began, "humans evolved on a planet that was trying to kill them. We had no claws, no armor, no venom. We were soft and slow and weak compared to most predators, but we survived. Do you know how?" The council was silent. "We survived because we never gave up. We are what scientists call persistence predators. We don't catch our food by being fast or strong. We catch it by following it until it collapses from exhaustion. We can walk longer than any animal on our planet. We can keep going when everything else stops. She changed the display. It showed a graph of human development. This stubbornness, this refusal to quit, it starts early, very early. A human toddler operates on almost no sleep. They eat only what they choose to eat. They have no fear of danger because they don't understand that danger exists. And when they want something, they will fight for it with every part of their being. The representative leaned forward. The screaming, that frequency, it registered on seismic monitors across the moon. Human children can scream at volumes that cause physical pain. This is an evolutionary adaptation. In ancient times, a loud scream would alert the entire tribe to danger. It would call parents from great distances. It had to be impossible to ignore. Paused. It is still impossible to ignore. But the emotion, said. The raw feeling, it was overwhelming. It broke through every mental shield. Stood up. She had been quiet until now, but she knew this subject better than anyone. When a human child feels something, they feel it completely. They have not learned to control their emotions yet. They have not learned to hide what they feel. So when was upset, he was completely upset. Every part of him was expressing that feeling. Nothing was held back. Nodded. Adults learn to filter themselves. We learn to be polite, to control our reactions, to fit into society. Children haven't learned that yet. What you saw was unfiltered human emotion. And this is normal, asked. All human young do this. Every single one, said. Every human you have ever met, every soldier who defended a colony, every scientist who solved a problem, every diplomat who negotiated a treaty. They all started like this, full of rage and hunger and an absolute conviction that the universe should give them what they want. She changed the display again. It showed statistics. A human toddler can cry for hours without stopping. They can hold their breath until they pass out, then wake up and continue crying. They can survive falls that would injure adults. They heal faster than any other stage of human development. When was 2, added, he pushed a bookshelf that weighs 40 kilograms. He did this because his toy car was stuck underneath. He should not have been able to move it. His muscles are not strong enough. But he wanted that car, so he pushed until physics gave up and let him win. The council members looked at each other. They were beginning to understand. You are saying, the representative spoke slowly, that human children are unreasonable. Yes. They do not respond to logic. No. They cannot be intimidated or threatened. They don't understand threats. They think they are immortal. They think they are the center of the universe. They think that everything exists for them. And they become your soldiers, your leaders, your explorers. Smiled, yes, but the stubbornness never really goes away. We just learn to aim it at bigger things. Was looking at, the boy had finished his milk and was now playing with a toy ship. He was completely relaxed. He had forgotten about his tantrum. He had forgotten about the arena. He was living entirely in the present moment, happy and content. How do you survive? Asked. How does your species not go extinct in the first generation? Laughed. It was a tired laugh. We survive each other. Every human parent goes through this. Every human was this. We know what it's like. We know it will pass. We know that one day this screaming ball of emotion will grow into a functioning adult. Or a functioning soldier, added. He had been standing in the corner watching. In our military, we have a saying. We don't train people to be tough. We just remind them how tough they were when they were 3. Was very quiet. He was thinking about his own people, who prized strength above all else. They trained their young from birth to be warriors. They hardened them through pain and discipline. It took decades to create a proper soldier. But humans started like this. They started as tiny, unstoppable forces of pure will. They started fighting before they could walk. They started demanding things before they could speak. And they never really stopped. The said slowly, the creature that has destroyed armies, it was confused by the child. threw a juice box at it, said, "Your champion has never faced an opponent who wasn't afraid. It has never met something that looked at it and saw not a threat but an annoyance. 2. There was just a big thing that was in the way. Your child saw my apex predator as an inconvenience. He saw everything as an inconvenience. He was tired and cranky and wanted to go home. Nothing else mattered." The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, Representative began to laugh. It was a strange sound like metal scraping against metal, but it was definitely laughter. "We thought you were mocking us," said. "We thought you were insulting the sacred tradition, but you were not. You were showing us the truth." "What truth?" "Humans are not powerful despite being weak as children. Humans are powerful because of how weak you are as children. Your young must survive through pure willpower, through refusing to give up, through screaming at the universe until it listens." Bowed her head. "Now you understand." Looked up from his toy. He saw all the strange aliens looking at him. He smiled, showing his small teeth. "Want more milk?" he said. Every representative in the chamber flinched. The final judgment came 3 days later. The Galactic Council needed time to repair the damage. They needed time to treat the wounded. They needed time to understand what they had witnessed. The Chiton Collective had spent 48 hours in recovery mode. Every drone in their empire had experienced Tantrum through their neural link. They had all felt the fury of wanting a cookie and being told no. 3 hive worlds had requested permanent time off from work. This was remarkable because the Chiton had no concept of vacation before that day. They had invented it specifically to deal with the trauma. They had been returned to its home world. Its handlers reported that the creature had changed. It no longer wanted to hunt. It no longer wanted to consume light and spread darkness. It just wanted to stay in its cave and be left alone. The scientists were studying this. They called it the first case of existential crisis in a non-sentient apex predator. They had recovered physically. The juice box had not caused any real damage, but mentally, the creature was different. It had met something that was not afraid of it. It had looked into the eyes of a tiny human and seen absolute fearlessness. This had broken something in its predator brain. It now refused to attack anything smaller than itself. Ambassador stood before the council again. This time she was calm. She knew what was coming. The Grand Arbiter spoke. They were a being made of pure energy, ancient and powerful, the voice of the 12 species united. "We have deliberated. We have studied. We have tried to understand." They paused. "We have failed to understand, but we have decided." Waited. "Humanity is hereby granted full apex status. All territorial disputes currently under review will be resolved in your favor. Your expansion rights will be increased by 300%. No species will challenge your claim to any system you settle." A murmur went through the chamber. This was more than anyone had expected. "Furthermore," the Arbiter continued, "we are establishing a new protocol. Any diplomatic negotiation involving humans will include additional security measures. Specifically, we want guarantees that no human children will be present." Almost smiled. "May I ask why?" "Because we have seen what your adults can do. We have watched your soldiers and your scientists and your diplomats. They are already difficult to deal with. They have stubbornness that our psychologists cannot explain. They continue fighting when they should surrender. They continue working when they should rest. They find solutions when there should be none." The Arbiter's energy form pulsed with something that might have been fear. "We now understand where this comes from. Your adults are the survivors of childhood. They have been fighting since before they could walk. They have been refusing to give up since before they could speak. By the time they reach maturity, they have already won thousands of battles against the universe itself." Raised his armored hand. "I have a question for the humans." Ask, said. "What happens after this stage? The child will grow. Will it become more reasonable?" Laughed, she couldn't help it. The sound echoed through the chamber. "I apologize," she said, "but no, it does not become more reasonable. After the toddler stage, they enter what we call the why phase." "Explain." "They ask questions about everything, constantly, without stopping. Why is the sky blue? Why do birds fly? Why can't I eat cookies for every meal? Why do I have to sleep? Why?" Took a breath. This phase lasts approximately 2 to 3 years. The council members looked at each other. And then asked carefully. Then they become children. They are slightly more reasonable. They go to school. They learn things, but they also learn to argue. They question every rule. They test every boundary. They form opinions and defend them with passion. And after that, stepped forward, his face was serious. After that, they become teenagers. The way he said the word made the entire council flinch. What is a teenager? Imagine the Tantrum you saw today, but in a larger body, with more vocabulary, and hormones, so many hormones. Hormones. Chemicals in the body that control emotion and growth. During the teenage years, human bodies produce massive amounts of these chemicals. It makes them emotional, irrational, and absolutely convinced that they know better than everyone else. The Grand Arbiter was silent for a moment. How long does this stage last? 6 to 8 years. 6 to 8 years. Sometimes longer. Every human is different. The council chamber was very quiet. The representatives were processing this information. They were imagining creatures like, but bigger, faster, smarter, more capable of destruction. "I propose," said slowly, "that we never invade Earth." "Seconded," said immediately. "Thirded," said the representative. The vote was unanimous. Bowed to the council. "Thank you for your wisdom. Humanity looks forward to peaceful cooperation with all species." As she turned to leave, broke free from his father's arms. He ran toward the center of the chamber, his small feet slapping against the floor. Before anyone could stop him, he stood before the Grand Arbiter, looking up at the being of pure energy. Every guard in the chamber reached for their weapons. Smiled. "You're shiny," he said. The Arbiter looked down at the small human. This tiny creature that had terrorized the arena. This evolutionary weapon that had brought the Chiton Collective to its knees. "Yes," the Arbiter said, "I am shiny." "Can I touch?" The Arbiter, who had judged species for 10,000 years, who had decided the fate of empires, who had never once showed favoritism or emotion, did something unexpected. They lowered themselves down to level. "Yes," they said, "you may touch." Reached out his small hand and poked the energy form. It tickled. He giggled, a sound completely different from his earlier screams. It was pure joy, pure happiness, pure love for a universe that contained shiny things to touch. The council members watched this. They saw how quickly the terrifying creature had become something gentle, something innocent, something capable of wonder. "This is humanity," said softly. "Rage and joy, destruction and creation, terror and tenderness, all of it in one small package." She walked over and picked up. He was getting tired again. His head rested on her shoulder. "Pretty lights," he murmured, looking at the council chamber. "Yes," said, "they're all pretty lights, and someday you'll help us reach them." On the ship home, slept in his mother's arms. He was peaceful. He was dreaming whatever 3-year-olds dream about, cookies probably, and toys, and a universe that existed just for him. Sat next to his wife. "Do you think they understand now, about humans?" Smiled. "I think they're starting to." "What do you think they'll do with this knowledge?" "Probably leave us alone, which is all anyone really wants." Ambassador was looking out the window at the stars. The arena of supremacy was shrinking behind them. Somewhere on that moon, A was learning to live with fear. A was questioning its purpose. 1 billion Chiton were taking their first vacation ever. All because of one tired, cranky, wonderful little human. "Lieutenant," she said. "Yes, Ambassador. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the mission was successful." What should I say about how it went? Thought about it, she thought about the screaming, the juice box, the cookie negotiations, the grand explanations about human evolution. "Tell them," she said, "that humanity showed the galaxy exactly what we are, and the galaxy decided not to mess with us." Smile, that's a good message. Outside the window, the stars stretched into lines as the ship jumped too. Somewhere in the vastness of space, a dozen species were rewriting their analysis of humanity. They were adding new warnings, new cautions, new advice. "Never underestimate a human," the files would say. "And whatever you do, never underestimate their children. Because humans start fighting from the moment they're born. And they never, ever stop."